Welcome back to the dumbest bill in America. We have with us, of course, Delegate Brian Chisholm.
Great to be here.
And I'm Mark Fisher. We're calling this podcast Fighting Back Against Chinese Communists. That's right, Brian. There's actually a story in the LA Times, podcast listeners, and Brian and I have talked about these things before. There is a place in Beverly Hills, they call it the Chinese Beverly Hills. And the Chinese community calls it the same thing. And they're fighting back against Chinese communist infiltration. So what does this mean? It's a great article, by the way. So in Beverly Hills, there's a long-standing, for many, many decades, Chinese community. And they're very financially successful, and they're very driven, and they love America. They are Americans, obviously. They love this country. They want to contribute to this country. They came here to get away from the Chinese communists, of course, in mainland China. And what's happening is increasingly you have folks who are trying to infiltrate their community, especially politicians, at the school board level, which this article talks about, all the way up to the highest level. You know, you got Eric Swalwell is a great example.
Fang.
They're trying, Fang. And they're trying to, the Chinese communists are, they're trying to obviously change America to be like Chinese communists and the Communist Party. And the American Chinese community are saying, no, we don't want any part of this. We want to expose these individuals and get them out of our community. Brian, what are your thoughts?
You know, it's so fascinating to me when we talk about China. And as you know, I just went to Taiwan, and I was actually extremely impressed by their educational system.
But that's not mainland China.
That's not mainland China.
Democratic.
But here's what's
China.
important about Taiwan. They got their independence 30 years ago. And now the youth there are going to be hell-bent to ever give back that freedom. They don't want to ever give it back.
Sure.
So now they're saying, so I think China sees this. Look, there's a lot of young people in China that are very well educated, but they use their talents and their education. The communist government says, no, you have to use your talents and your education to prop us up and give us more power. It really doesn't elevate them. So when in Arcadia, California, what's happened? The Chinese community has figured out we're very smart, we're very innovative, we're very entrepreneurial, and they've built very successful models. And China can't have that, because as the youth starts to figure out that freedom really does bring real opportunity and real growth, they don't want to see that. So China is going to infiltrate the United States.
Yeah, they want to do the Chinese Scholars Program. They want to do all these communist programs like, you know, we've talked about before. And they want to bring them, of course, here to the United States, because if you can, you know, change people ideologically, not just as adults, but really train them as children and indoctrinate them, then what you have are party faithful Chinese communists or communists here in the United States who will do their bidding, of course, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
And the important part about this story to me was, and you and I have covered it and been lambasted for it, but look, China is...
God forbid we call stuff out that we see and that has been documented by actual organizations that individuals have run, including at College Park. Right? God forbid.
Self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed. They admitted, in other words, admitted that they did it.
Yeah.
Okay. And ran the programs on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. But somehow we can't talk about it. You know, it kind of goes to the whole censorship thing that we talked about before.
I don't want to go off on a side step, but
but I'm going to.
Yeah, right.
But he's going to.
Because this pisses me off. All these idiots want to come out here and write crap about me and say, well, you can't say that because it doesn't mean they were talking to the PRC. I was like, he was the leader of the communist organization. It's like me being the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens and saying, I never speak to the head coach. It is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Brian's like Cartman right now. He's pissed off.
I'm pissed off.
But it doesn't. This story speaks to this.
I'm pissed off.
It speaks to it, a very important part. Look, everybody in the country, or most people in the country, know Eric Swalwell.
Oh yeah, he was totally compromised by Fang. Everybody knew it, like all during the Biden administration, and now finally they're beginning to hold people to account.
Feinstein had her driver, but that's big story, right? That's Congress, that's Senate. If you listen to a lot of the experts on China, they're like, they really go after the Board of Education,
yes,
at local government. government, state government,
yes.
smaller government, because it's easier to start.
And they hope those individuals will one day get to higher office. That's why they started lower offices. And they figure if you compromise enough people, sooner or later you're going to get a whale. It'll be somebody who becomes a United States senator or potentially a president.
But not just that, Mark. If you think about our energy policy, which is a big thing, we're in a race with AI, right?
Yes.
Who is the ones that have most regulation or most power over top of utilities and energy? State and local.
Yes.
The federal government can't really tell a state what to do with their energy. Mm-hmm. They can pass different EPA rules and all that. Yes. But the state, hence why in the state of Maryland we suck, because the state determines our energy policy. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Sierra Club determines our energy policy here. Mm-hmm. So the Chinese are not dumb. They're actually very sophisticated communists. They're like, if we can shut down their power through local and state government, we are winning. Mm-hmm. I mean, Fang can go mess with Eric Swalwell all she wants, but he really doesn't. I mean, Congress, they have power, not that much power.
But you know what, Brian, what's interesting is, and I want to bring this full circle, and this is important, is all of us out here in podcast land, and Brian and I included, we know the difference, okay, between someone who is here and they love this country. They came here legally. They love America. They want to build in America. Yes. They want to grow America. They love the freedom that they have here, no matter the color of their skin, no matter their nationality, no matter their religion. And they love America equally. And that is very different from the communists. And our biggest enemy right now are the Chinese communists. That's right? Not the Chinese people. The Chinese communists. Say that again. The Chinese communists. It's kind of obvious. And God forbid you start calling things the way they are and you're told, no, we're going to censor you. That's really bad. Go ahead, Brian. You get the final thoughts on this.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the Chinese communists are really the biggest enemy of the freedom-loving Chinese Americans,
yes,
or the ones from China that have come here seeking opportunity. Which is what this article talks about. That's why Arcadia, California is like, wait a second, we got a good thing going here. Now the Communist Party of China is trying to infiltrate, and that's a concern throughout the country. That's not Mark Fisher and I saying it. That's everybody in the intelligence community, from the CIA to FBI to Homeland Security.
And it's common sense, right?
Yes, communism is a horrible thing. Communism brings about nothing but destruction, misery, and despair. You and I saying we don't want it here all of a sudden makes us the bad guy. And we say we want to protect the Chinese Americans because they do have great entrepreneurship and they do have great education.
And we want them to be Republicans.
Yes.
We want them to be Republicans because the Democrat Party is going full communist.
Yeah.
And of course, that's one of the major reasons the Democrat Party in Maryland is so upset about this conversation, because they know that so many nationalities who come here love America. And when you love America, you're probably going to be a Republican. You're not going to go full communist.
And last note.
Come on, Partman, get pissed off again.
One of the most surprising things to me has been the number of Chinese people that have come up to me and said, you're right.
Yes, likewise.
The Taiwanese people definitely say, they're like, Taiwanese people.
Yes.
Because they recognize it. They're right off their coast and they're like, yes, they're trying to take down Taiwan.
Including other people in other Asian countries who aren't Chinese who are being bullied by the communists, right?
The only people like communists evidently are the communists and the Democrat Party for some reason.
And that's the dumbest bill in America, fighting back against Chinese communists. We'll see you next time.